Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Meenal Dhal from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. Today we'll discuss about the module Taphonomy and Fossilization from the paper Human Origin and Evolution. The learning objectives of the module are to build a formative base on study of the fossils and to learn about the process of fossilization. So first let's start with the term fossilization. Paleontologists study fossils to determine age of rock beds and reconstruct ancient environment. Fossilization is a rare phenomenon. Chemical decomposition, erosion, scavengers, pressure and temperature changes are several processes that decrease the odds of fossilization occurring. The possession of hard parts, rapid deep burial, and protection from the bacteria are conducive for fossilization. Fossil could be remains of a part of an organism such as teeth, bones, or shells, or complete the skeleton itself. In the simplest form, fossils are remains of traces of organisms that lived during ancient geological times and were buried in the rocks that accumulated in the Earth's outer portion of the crust. This definition is complete in itself if consider two argumentations in the mind. The very first one is the term ancient geologic time refers to all Earth's history from prehistoric times, and the second one is the word rock means any considerable deposit on earth crust that makes up from gravel beds, clay to ground ice, natural paraffin beds and asphalt. Fossils are the remnants of prehistoric animals and plants that was preserved in rock or other material. The remnant embedded in rock is called as a fossil. As we talk about fossils being so rarely found, we need to understand the importance of preserving them for better learning of them. There can be numerous ways by which fossils can be preserved. Here the picture shows the fossilization of a pine cone from Oligocene deposits of fluorescent Corregidor, and it shows both the shape of the cone and the scales that enclosed its seeds. The another figure illustrates the formation of fossils. There are various methods of preserving fossils, as we have understood that fossils can be anything from footprint to petrified bones to shells to frozen bodies to woods or dissected skins. Their preservation is equally important to study the generative degradation over a time period. There have been different methods of preserving fossils which we'll discuss one by one. The very first method is freezing. It is an ideal method to preserve dead bodies, bones, woods, plants, etc., as it causes minimal change in dead remains. These remains are ideal but are rarely found. The second is drying or dissection. This is the second best method in quality preservation of dead remains. Cave-dwelling animals are mostly found fossilized in such a manner. The third is wax and asphalt method. The next in the sequence is natural paraffin wax. It is in fact as good as ice preservation. Asphalt method, however, preserves only the hard parts such as bones, teeth, horn and shells of the insect. Another method is the simple burial. Plant remains often lie on for long period without much change. Post-glacial peat contain cones, stems, pollen grains that accumulated in bogs. Logs buried in German ignite about 40,000 years old or more than that year old are discolored and slightly decayed, but the texture and grain of their wood show little alteration. Another method of fossilization is carbonization. It is a process of incomplete decay which gets rid of the volatile substance but leaves carbon behind, and in extreme cases carbonization causes plant and animal to become shiny black films thinner than the tissue paper. Another method is petrification. This method can take place in two probable ways. The first is permineralization, when fat and other organic substances decay while water containing dissolved mineral matter soaks into every cavity and pore of hard and limby structures. This is the most common way of preserving marine and aquatic fossils, as were the bone and teeth of varied vertebrates. The second is replacement method, that takes place when water dissolves the original hard parts and replaces them with mineral matter. This happens very slowly, that new mineral matters duplicates microscopic structures of shells, corals, bones and wood. Sometimes replacement may happen at a speed that no trace of original structure remains. Molds and casts are another method for fossilization, where sometimes shells, stumps and other remains often lie in sediments until it becomes firm. Later, the dead objects decay or dissolve, leaving behind a cavity known as a natural mold. This may be filled with the plaster of Paris, wax or some other compound to be collected as a cast or squeezed and studied. Tracks, trails and burrows are another method. The most famous fossil tracks are those left by dinosaurs that walked upon moist mud banks or plastic swamp bottoms which later solidified. Tracks of other reptiles as well as trails and footprints of some amphibians, birds, elephant and some Stone Age man have also been found. In the type coprolite, the ancient feces of vertebra preserved by petrification or as molds or casts is called coprolites. Some show grooves made by the spiral wall found in the shark intestine. Rocks and fossils. What are rocks and fossils? Rocks which vary greatly in hardness also differ in the origin. Origin in turn determine our chances of finding fossils in the rocks. There are different types of rocks like igneous rock. Igneous rock means fiery. Though rocks of this class did not really burn, all ones were really hot. They include lavas that came to the surface in the eruption as well as related deposits that cooled and hardened underground. Most lavas were fluid when they came from cracks and volcanoes and flowed out upon the surface. Upon cooling, they form granite and similar rocks which lack the bubbles and traces of flowage that are characteristics of lava. Fossils are very rare in lavas as nothing can live in great heat or far below the surface. Lavas often are blown to the pieces and shot into airs where they cool rapidly. Falling off the ground to the ground, they form deposits called agglomerate. If the fragments are coarse and tough, if they are very fine, both bridge the gap between igneous and sedimentary rocks since their particles settle upon their earth surface although they once were hot. Agglomerate covers many fossil trees, some of which were dead logs at the time of burials. Redwood logs are excellently preserved and are found in light colored stuff a few miles from Calistoga, California. Another type of rock is sedimentary rock and their fossils. Though fossils are exceptional in igneous rocks, they are commonly found in sedimentary rock deposit, as sedimentary rocks form at temperature and pressure that do not destroy fossil remains. However, not all the sedimentary rocks contain fossils. Fine grained limestones may be equally barren since they consist of material that once was dissolved in water. Shells and corals are rare in most marine sandstones. Coral because they could not live amid sand. Shells because they were destroyed by acids in beds of sands or by water seeping through the rock after it solidified. The core sandstone may enclose bones of large dinosaurs, while fine-grained beds containing clay and mica are often abound in track and burrows. Other fine-grained sandstones that settled on land are rich in fossil remains or fossil mammals. Another type of rock is metamorphic rocks. These are typified by slate, true marble, and contorted crystalline rocks, often called granite, though the proper terms are gneisses and schists. Some begin as sediments, other as igneous. Intensely metamorphized rocks contains no fossils, but the stromatolites are abundant in some slightly changed marbles and shells of various kinds that have been found in slate, which is mildly metamorphosed shell. Such fossils were flattened and squeezed sidewise or stretched as the rocks were forced with the mountain ranges. Though such remains can be recognized, their shapes may be quite different from those creatures when alive. Now we'll start with the introduction to taphonomy. Taphonomy is the study of the process of fossilization. Taphonomy is derived from the Greek word taphos, meaning death, and nomos means law. Taphonomy is the study of the transition of animal remain from the biosphere into the lithosphere. In other words, taphonomy is the study of post-mortem process through the action of environmental factors of the living until its discovery as fossils. For any organism to be found in the museum display, it has to pass through the three stages, namely necrology stage, biostatonomy stage, and diagenesis stage. Therefore, taphonomy is a way to determine the predisposition in the fossil remains and their preservation methods. It is documented that the relative abundance of species in a fossil assemblage may not be an accurate reflection of the relative abundance in the original assemblage of living population. The slide shows a pictorial diagram of taphonomy where the different processes of taphonomy is there. The taphonomic processes can be classified into three major categories of alteration and destruction, namely physical, chemical, and biological processes. In the physical process, mechanical breakdown of organic material through water or wind action, storm are taken into consideration. However, in chemical processes, any alteration of a material's mineralogy as well as any leaching of material by the surrounding water or air is taken into the consideration. And finally, the biological process such as sponge or algal boring can help to alter the eventually destroyed potential fossil materials. At any given situation, all these three types may act in consortium. It is, however, a difficult task to look for intensity of interaction of these processes and their effects on the fossil assemblage. Fossils can be concentrated either by physical process such as storm or currents, or by aggregations where living organisms pile upon one another, such as those found in oyster beds or coral reefs. Taphonomic grades are the high tidal energy current of rivers or beach water may grind and abrade bones or shells so that they are unidentifiable after only a short period of time. Therefore, some sedimentary environments are better than others when it comes to the preserving fossils. The quiet waters of swamps and lagoons, on the other hand, may permit the preservation of the delicate feature of any hard part. The taphonomic grade can vary from sample to sample. Taphonomic grades can be recognized and analyzed, and their variations can be used to interpret the ancient environment of the deposition. Now, there are various methods used for dating the fossils, and majorly there are two main methods of dating. One is relative dating, another one is absolute dating. Relative dating is used to determine the fossil's approximate age by comparing it to the similar rocks and fossils of known age. And here you can see the picture showing the Earth's stratigraphy. It follows the law of superimposition, that is, lower layer is older than the higher layer. On the other hand, in absolute dating, a precise age of a fossil is ascertained by using radiometric dating to measure the decay of isotopes, either within the fossil or, more often, the rocks associated with it. Radioactive isotopes are unstable, will thus lose the energy. Energy loss follows a definite mathematical pattern by measuring the amount of radioactive isotope versus unenergized isotope of element. You know time taken for amount of the decay. Another method of dating fossil is magnetism in rocks. This method can be used to estimate the age of a fossil site by using the orientation of the Earth's magnetic field, which has changed through time, to determine ages of fossils and rocks. Some of the limitations to radiocarbon dating are, like, they have organic material is only sample size, contamination control, that is, carbon is ubiquitous, organic materials only C14 to C12 ratio is not constant and must be calibrated, multiple samples should be run for accuracy, exchange precision for wider geographical and temporal range. And here in the picture shows the permineralized crinoid containing some of its original calcite. It also shows the shape and structure of plates in the calyx and arms. Mississippians observations made from studies of fossil. Many petrified trees preserve woody cell walls, stems, roots and cones found in chert of limy coals balls. Palm-like cycads still bear organs that served the purpose of flowers, and plants that falsely resemble ferns contain seeds in the pod at the tip of their leaves. Fossil spores are abundant in cannel, coal, and some reveal nuclei that once were the centers of life in their gelatinous cells. A cactus some 500,000 years old bear both flowers and fruits. Carbonized marine invertebrates of vastly greater age shows internal organs as well as bristles, scales and other structures. Fossil vertebrates are often called perfect if they contain all the important bones and if most of their teeth remains in jaws. The dinosaurs buried in a fine grained sandstone have impression of skin around their bones. Even bones devoid of any flesh may also reveal great deal of knowledge about soft anatomy. The key parts of any body are its muscles, for they give both shape and determine its movements. Muscles in turn are fastened to bones, leaving marks that indicate sizes, shapes, and functions of these varied organs. Now, brain and nerves determine intelligence and behavior, and their principal features can be determined from the cavities and channels in the skulls. The enlarged areas in brains mean some animals hunted by sight, though others relied on smell. The habits of invertebrates are sometimes shown by their shapes, relationships, and position in which they are found. The fossils also tell a great deal about the surroundings and the conditions under which they lived. Trees grew on the land, but seaweeds inhabited salt water, and so did corals, oysters, and squid like creatures. But snails, mussels, and fish belonging to the group now found only in fresh water may be assigned to that particular environment. Animals such as horses, camels lived on dry lands, while animals like hippopotamus made their home in swamps. Palms grew in warm regions while spruce thrives in colder regions. The ferns require a great deal of moisture, but grasses and most cacti get along with much less. Although seemingly stable Earth or the Earth's surface has gone through dramatic changes over a period of 4.6 billion years, many mountains have been built and many eroded, while many new continents and oceans have emerged. Earth's surface that was once covered with glaciers is now rapidly melting due to increase in global warming. These changes are slow but never ceasing and happening at a slower pace even today. Due to these changes, organisms have evolved and remnants of some have been preserved as fossils. A fossil can be studied to determine what kind of organism it represents, how the organism lived, and how it was preserved. Fossil age must be determined so as to be compared with those of other fossils from corresponding period. Simply by comparing the primate species, experts can examine the changes that have taken place and how species have been evolved over a span of time. The age of each fossil primate needs to be known so that fossils of same age found at different parts of the world can be compared with the other one. The picture depicts here is the principle of faunal succession to understand the relative age of rocks and fossils. Now let us summarize what we have discussed till now. The preservation and collection of fossils have been the hardest part of the paleoanthropologists. Most investigations require the knowledge, skill, and expertise of the experts, geologists, archaeologists, anthropologists to study the remains and their fossil records. It is evident that the soft tissues and bones always do not end up into becoming fossils, whereas it is the most often, if not always, the hard bones, teeth, and shells that end up becoming fossilized. It is mostly due to the destruction from outer force of the environment, sand predators, and sometimes due to biological decay and decomposition. Using variety of methods, paleoanthropologists are able to determine the age of geological materials to answer the question, how old is the fossil? Relative dating methods are used to describe a sequence of events. These methods rely on the principles of stratigraphy to place the events recorded in rocks from oldest to youngest. Absolute dating method determine how much time has passed since the rocks formed by measuring the radioactive decay of isotopes or the effect of radiation on the crystal structure of minerals. The paleomagnetism measures the ancient orientation of the Earth's magnetic field to help determine the age of the rocks. The simple sedimentological model is a surprisingly very powerful predictor of post-mortem bias and ecological composition of fossil assemblages, suggesting that fossil-rich and fossil-poor strata are qualitatively different both as repositories of paleontological information and as setting for the biotic interactions. Moreover, the apparent primary importance of rates of sedimentation in skeletal accumulation, despite emphasis usually placed on the rates of hard part input, suggests a new approach to interfering the detailed dynamics of sediment deposition and erosion in the formation of stratigraphical sequences. Thank you.